Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Have you ever felt that sinking feeling in your chest when you read the news about the planet, and wonder if anyone else in your professional life is actually feeling the same way? We often think of scientists as these cold, objective machines, but today we are looking at a study about the people behind the data, specifically health psychologists, and how they are coping with the weight of the climate crisis. The big question here is simple but deep. If you are a professional whose whole job is to study human behavior and health, how does knowing about the impending climate disaster affect you personally? The researchers behind this paper decided to pull off a pretty cool experiment at a big scientific conference in Groningen. Instead of just presenting slides or charts, they set up what they called a climate café. This was not a coffee shop in the traditional sense, but a safe, confidential space where psychologists could just show up and talk about how they were really feeling. They gathered 37 people and broke them into small groups of 5 or 6. They gave them a set of simple prompts to get the ball rolling, like asking about their favorite places in nature and the specific challenges they face in their careers when it comes to the climate. It was all about equality and giving everyone a turn to speak without judgment. So, what actually came out of these sessions? It was not a list of policies or scientific breakthroughs, but a raw, honest look at the emotional toll of the crisis. The participants talked about a deep sense of frustration. They felt that while individuals were doing what they could, like swapping out a burger for a plant-based meal or making small adjustments, the big players like governments and giant corporations were dragging their feet. It created this feeling of being stuck between wanting to fight for a better future and feeling like the game is rigged against them. They also touched on the sting of unfairness, specifically when they looked at how older generations or wealthy countries build their status on the back of carbon emissions, and now the younger generation is stuck picking up the bill. It is that classic moral dilemma, intensified by the scale of the Earth itself. They even brought up the irony of being a researcher who has to fly across the world to talk about how to stop climate change, talk about a complex knot to untangle. What I find most interesting is how they handled these feelings. They did not just sit in their misery. The researchers found that these people relied on a few key coping strategies. First, they turned to each other. By getting into these groups and realizing that everyone else felt that same sense of anxiety and helplessness, the burden actually felt a bit lighter. It is the power of community, which for a group of busy, sometimes isolated professionals, was a relief that you cannot really quantify with a spreadsheet. They also started intentionally turning off the media because of how negative news cycles can be. They realized that constantly doom scrolling makes the anxiety feel worse. So they started protecting their peace by stepping away from screens. They also leaned into nature, which is a classic psych trick, but one that really works. Simply talking about their favorite spots in the wild reconnected them with the very thing they are trying to save. This study is a great reminder that scientists are people too. The main takeaway here is that sometimes we think productivity is the only way to heal a problem. But being a human with complex emotions requires connection and validation. The paper suggests that these simple, informal spaces for venting and sharing might be just as important as the actual research being done in the labs. Now, if I am being critical, this study is really just a snapshot. It is a bunch of people at one conference. So it might not represent how every single psychologist in the world feels. It is also a very qualitative study, meaning it is more about stories and themes than hard numbers. But that is actually its biggest strength. It tells us that we have to make space for the emotional side of these big global issues. I think the real lesson here is for all of us. Whether you are a top-level researcher or just trying to navigate your daily life, you do not have to carry the weight of the world alone. Finding your version of a climate cafe, even if it is just a friend you can talk to honestly without feeling judged, is a massive win for your mental health. We need that sense of collective action, but we also sometimes just need to stop the clock and be. If this resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you find yourself feeling these same frustrations, or do you have your own secret strategy for keeping that climate anxiety from turning into a dark hole? Let me know below. Thanks for hanging out with me in the Mind Lab today. If you enjoyed this dive into the psychology of climate change, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Stay curious, stay connected, and I will see you in the next one.